Okay. Let me just get my shit together, y'all. I know y'all are there. Let me just get my shit together, y'all. Cause this is about to be a bad stream. Not bad, like, cause I like hanging out with y'all, but like ain't nobody getting no high ass scores today. I'll tell you that. They are getting some low scores, okay? Um, welcome everyone to Shino's Arsenal. You guys can see like the back there, whatever. Hello everyone. Welcome to Shino's Arsenal. This is going to be the player ratings for Arsenal's abysmal performance against Lens, where Lens rightfully won 2-1. They were, I just want to say this first. Lens were amazing today. Defended perfectly. Their crowd was loud and up for it. They took their chances when they got them. They were calm, cool, and collected in the attacking third. They won all their duels. Okay. They won all their duels and they absolutely outplayed Arsenal. Arteta was also outcoached today. They were completely comfortable for the majority of the game. And from the moment that they scored their first goal, Arsenal completely collapsed. And then once Saka came off, we collapsed even further. Arsenal do not have an answer for when they're not playing particularly well. When we're not playing well and we're not controlling the match the way that we should, we just have no answers whatsoever. And it's becoming a growing theme that Arsenal are not able to heap a lot of pressure on the opposition. And so, the game was awful. It started off okay. We scored the first goal and the pass from Raya into Tomiyasu just was not on. The pass for Tomiyasu it was not on. He was either not square enough to receive that, but he also had a man on him. That man won the ball and they easily just kind of like one pass into Wahi, he flicks it on, boom, goal. Nice goal, but all self-inflicted from either Raya passing the ball to Tomiyasu when he was marked, or maybe Tomiyasu was actually supposed to be more square and he wasn't in the position that he was supposed to be in. You guys let me know. From that moment on, Arsenal were awful. The body language, the touches, no duels being won, guys looking at each other like they've never seen each other before, guys looking at the ball like they've never seen one before, just absolutely just like the worst performance of the season so far. And Lens definitely deserved to win it. Like 100%, there is nothing like Lens were perfect. And do you see the way that they celebrated? They celebrated because they knew that that was a big win. They should have lost that game because we're a much better side. People went into this game saying we should start all of our, subs and, go in there because we're looking at Manchester City. I don't know if the team was looking at Manchester City, but we needed to pay attention to the game that was right in front of us because we lost that shit. We lost that shit because we were awful. We were toothless, we were pathetic, and we did not win any of our duels. We didn't earn the right to play. And when we were in the final third, it was like we had never been there before. Never been there before. Passing the ball into places where nobody is there, passing it backwards, looking scared to pass forward. Arsenal were abysmal today. They were terrible. Like, there's just no way to like cut it up. And that goal was coming. The second goal was coming because the second half, we were worse than the first half. And I didn't think that that was possible. And we were saying it on the watch along. It was like, they got one chance that they should have put away. And it was like, yeah, we're definitely losing this game because they're going to get another chance and that's going to be it. We couldn't hold on to the ball. We are giving it away silly. We are just like pathetic. Like that was a terrible performance. And for a team that worked so hard to get into the Champions League, I'm surprised that the performance was as low as it was. Where was the energy? Where was the vigor? Where was the excitement? It wasn't there. We were dead. Like we were dead today. And if you think anybody's going to get over like a 4, everybody was terrible. From the goalkeeper to Jesus. Absolutely outplayed today. Need to look at themselves in the mirror because if they put in a performance similar to that at all at the weekend, they might as well not even show up. I don't know if they were thinking about Manchester City. I don't know if they thought the game was won. I don't know if they thought that they were too good, but Europe is not like the Premier League. These teams are not afraid to come out and play their football. In the Premier League, yeah, guys sit back because they're afraid because they know we're going to pass it around them. But Lens just came out there and said, you know what? Let's have it. And they thoroughly deserved that win. We were outplayed. Arteta was outcoached. And like, I don't really understand why we were so poor, but damn. that was really, really poor. There's, like, no highlights to take from it. Even when ESR and Reece Nelson came on, everybody was calling them for them to come on, but they didn't really make a difference either. And I've seen this from Arsenal so many times. It's once we start losing, we continue to lose. We are not the type of team that can start off kind of poorly and, like, work through the game and, like, get better with subs and, like, changing things. When we're bad, we just kind of are a catastrophe. And that was a train wreck. That was a hard watch. And it was so obvious from, like, the beginning of the second half. I'm like, we're gonna lose this game. Like, it was so obvious. So yeah. I could just give everybody a fucking 4 or lower, but we're gonna actually go through it because this is our therapy. Because once I do these player ratings, child, I'm not talking about this anymore. We are gearing up for the weekend, and worse than anything is we have to gear up for the weekend knowing that potentially Saka is not gonna play. That he looks like, a little injured and so him coming off and then seeing what we look like when he's not on there is alarming. No Martinelli either. Shit, we're in trouble. Let's see what you guys are saying. Let me scroll all the way up. Where do I start? Hightower says killed our momentum into this weekend. Hell yeah, it did. Tashima says Arteta has a problem in Europe. He doesn't seem to really like, I mean, at home we were fine against PSV, but, like, away from home, that's why we were like, "Oh, it's fine." Away from home in Europe, we always look like we're just shitting ourselves. And I don't know if that's just lack of preparation or what, but you can't play the same way that you play in the Premier League in Europe. It's just different. It's more physical, it's more box to box. Like, guys are not afraid to stretch the game on you. And we were well beaten. We were well beaten. We were well beaten. So, yeah, Arteta, his record in Europe is still not very good. Like, he has time to turn it around, but the alarm bells are ringing. We're gonna go away to Sevilla, and you think Sevilla's like, or you think Lens's, like, atmosphere was up for it? Sevilla's a whole nother thing. We still have to go to the Netherlands as well, and that's a place where we got bought before. So away from home in Europe, we look sus as hell. So you can't play every game at home and you're not always going to get your way. So you have to figure out a way to impose yourself on a game, even if the other team is up for it. And Lons, they were up for it. And they outplayed us. Like, they bopped us. Like, it has to be stated. Boy says, can't blame Havertz when everyone was shit. You can't blame Havertz, but you can also say that he was absolutely dead in that game as well. Like, and the thing is like, and here's the thing is, like, people always want to go, well, everybody was shit. So, what about Odegaard? What about so-and-so? Odegaard has had so many good games for us that he builds up credit, at least with me. So he was bad today. Rice was not good today. No one was good today. But who's never really been good for us since he's been here is Kai Havertz. So he hasn't built up any credit. So yeah, we can say everybody was bad, so we don't need to talk about Havertz. But in the whole first half, I was trying to figure out what was he doing. Zinchenko was doing everything as, like, that the midfielder on the left-hand side should be doing. Dictating play, dictating the tempo, like a lot of passing, like he was doing everything, all the creativity. And I just didn't understand what Havertz's role was. And I don't think Havertz is like I like at this stage, like I am with Eddie as well. Eddie and Kai Havertz are just doing what they can do. They're whatever type of players. Eddie's not good enough, and Havertz, I don't know what Havertz is. But it's on Arteta because he's the one that's giving them contracts and buying them and playing them. So he needs to figure out a way for them to be of assistance and not to the detriment of the team. So yeah, I do agree that everybody was shit, but there's still going to be huge questions around what is Havertz, because, like, he was atrocious today. Like, it has to be said. It has to be said. Clement says, no one and this team gets more than a 3-period shocking performance. You what says, I don't understand why we weren't just kicking it up. Wait, I don't understand why we weren't just kicking it up like we did the last few minutes the whole time after their second goal. I don't know if we're arrogant or what, but the way that whole second half went was shocking to me because we were already at 1-1 and we weren't imposing ourselves. Then they scored and we were just kept passing it around sideways and backwards. Then, we got to the last 5 minutes and then we started trying to try to put them under some sort of pressure, and it was still like limp pressure. Like it wasn't even like for real pressure. So, I don't know if they just thought the goal would come, but the lack of urgency and energy and intensity from Arsenal in a European match is like very shocking. And I remember when we talked, we was like, "Oh, it's because we rotated the squad last season." This was a very strong Arsenal team, and I did not see the type of intensity I feel like I should have seen from that group of players. They were really bad today, and questions need to be asked. Boy says they are calling us Saka FC in some places right now. Can't really disagree with them. Odegaard, different player with and without Saka. Venetius says ESR and Reese Nelson should have started this game. C2 Dallo says I'm lost for words. Philip says bad news, Saka injury plus loss, undefeated streak. Good news, can still win the group. Plus we rested our key players for most of the game of the most important game of the season. Gotta be real, y'all. Like Manchester City in fucking October is our most important game of the season. Like, let's just we're at home. Like, let's just play. Like, all this like pomp and circumstance and like heavy emphasis and anxiety around a match is part of the reason why we never play well against them. It's always our biggest match. There's always a lot of, anticipation around it because we need to show them that we can beat them. I needed to see a performance today. Like, I needed to see a performance today. All the talk about Manchester City was making me feel annoyed anyway because I'm like, no, it's not just any other game, but the fact that it's a game of this magnitude in October, I just don't like it. It's any other game. It's against a really difficult team, but I think the reason why we never play well against them is because there always feels like there's so many chips on the line. Like there's like our season is going to derail if we don't beat this team right now. I'm so focused on Lens. Why the fuck did we lose this game? Um, it's always the biggest game of our season, whether we're in the title race or fucking not. And I just feel like we're too focused on Manchester City. We're never going to beat them if they're always our biggest game of the season ever. We just need to go in there and fucking play for once. Like, stop being scared. Like, that's a side thing. That's an outburst for me. But I get very tired of that game being the end all be all of our season. If we lose it, we are derailed. Like, I can't do it. Joseph says justice for Rams. Not sure that was justice for Rams, but people that want Ramsdale in the team, ask yourself this question: is the result any different if he's in that goal? Can you say it with certainty? Probably fucking not, because you've seen an atrocious game like that with Ramsdale in the goal as well. So, yeah, like, fair enough that, you can say Ramsdale deserved that. Ramsdale deserved that. But if Ramsdale was better, we wouldn't have gotten Rhea. His job has been under question because of games like that when he's been in there, when we've done that exact same thing. Don't forget Southampton at home. So I don't feel like it's justice for Rams. Like, I saw people saying, "Remember Pepe? So look at having like this is not a win for Pepe or a win for Partey or a win for anybody. It's a loss for everybody because we're one team and we fucking lost." Shantae says, "Actually ruined my night." It ruined my night as well, or my day, because it was just a poor performance. Like, ugh. Ivy said, "Poor from Arsenal. The team looks so disjointed." How do you look disjointed when it's basically the starting 11? I don't, it's not like Tommy has never played with the starting 11 before. It's not like Trossard hasn't played with the starting 11 before. What what's the excuse? Like, we went in there, I don't know if we were arrogant or what, because we're like, well, we're so fucking good. But this is why when people were like, oh, Arsenal are fourth favorites or whatever to win this Champions League, I was like, y'all are looking at a different Arsenal than me, because I did not come into this game feeling like it was going to be easy. Where other people were thinking that because we're good in the Premier League, we're going to be good in Europe. Like, there's a reason why Arsenal have never won the Champions League. Even our best teams ever have not really been European giants. So why this team would just come in and just like, nah, man, no, no. I almost crashed the computer right now. It was like, are you sure you want to leave? No, I don't. I'm just mad. Stone says Arteta was completely outcoached. Edziko says Kai slows down the game and he's easy to mark out. The thing is if he gets the ball and he's isolated, he can't get away from anybody. Like you could just kind of swarm him, and if there's not a readily available like wall pass, he can't find anybody else. He just gets picked off. And the one thing about Xhaka is he didn't get bumped off the ball. And when he was in a position where he was maybe outnumbered and couldn't find the pass, he would always figure out a way to win a foul or, something to like keep possession. Kai just is out there just losing the ball, and he did win some of his duels, like people were saying, but he was just kind of like, yeah. Jean says, very disappointed. We couldn't match their intensity. Mr. G Day says, Rhea is an upgrade! Exclamation point, period. He needs to be back in between the sticks. All Rhea does is keep a cool at the back. Okay. I mean, the stats really don't lie. And I don't really understand why people are so like desperate to be like against Rhea when like this is the goalkeeper that Arsenal wanted first. And Rhea has been like a top 4 goalkeeper in the league for like the last season, like when Ramsdale was down towards the bottom. So Raya not having a good game doesn't mean that Ramsdale would have been in there and he would have done any better. Like maybe he makes like he doesn't save any of those chances either, because we saw at the beginning of the season everything was going in. So I don't know. I people are so desperate to be player FC that I don't even know why people are backing Ramsdale so hard. Like we love him, but there's a reason why he's being, looked at as a place to upgrade, because Southampton, because blank, because I can name so many games, y'all. So yeah, Kadwani says ESR played well though. It's hard to even see how he played well because he was trying, but they looked like they were already defeated after, Lon scored that first goal. So it's hard to see. I know ESR tried hard and Nelson tried hard too, but I think everybody was poor. And like ESR and Nelson, it's not on them because they came in and the team was already like on a low ebb, and it's hard to drag a team up when you're kind of a squad guy, So I'm very disappointed in the level of intensity and like energy that I saw today. Like you played against a shitty Bournemouth, and so you played against a shitty Bournemouth a couple of days ago. You came to Lens, you've worked really hard to get into Champions League, and then you shit on the game like the way that you did. It's really bad. Like I didn't get it. Keenan says we're stuck in possession mode. This performance just shows how bad we need Ivan Toney. We can chuck him in the 60th minute and we can play the big man behind or over the top to batter their defense. By the time Tony is potentially in the team, who knows if we'll even really be in this competition. So that's something that Arsenal should have thought about in the summer. Ify says horrible performance. So without Saka, we cannot do anything. Very poor. No Martinelli and no Saka for the weekend is very, very scary because they're like light years ahead of like in terms of being able to like just general wing play of getting by your man and just general shit. They're way like beyond everybody else that we have in those positions. So and Trossard was really bad today, and he's somebody that you can usually depend on, even though he's not the same as them. So he's not going to offer you like behind like runs in behind and stuff like that. I was very shocked by the lack of technical security that he had today, which is something that he always has. So not sure what that was about, but no Martinelli and no Saka on the weekend basically just evens everything out. Everybody's like, oh, Rodri, he's not going to be there. Well, guess what? Our best player is not going to be there, and neither is like our second best player is not going to be there. And oh, by the way, we played really, really bad in midweek, and we have hangovers after bad performances. So I'm not feeling us right now. Saida says, no one wants to admit it, but we haven't had a good game this season. Our attack hasn't clicked and we're missing runners. We only ever apply pressure towards the end of a game. Clement says, leave the ref alone. We were very poor today, and period and end of. We definitely didn't earn the right to play on the pitch. I really agree with that. And Arteta and the team need to look at themselves in the mirror before City. I don't even like to put like, I don't even want to think about City now because it's like, you lose your best player and we look toothless, and I don't know. I don't want to say how I really feel about it because people are like not going to love what I have to say about it, but we have a inferiority complex with City anyway. And so going into a game, even without Rodri, I just don't think we have the cojones to go in there and actually beat them. Um, because we play scared and we play like their little brothers all the time. And we have two players in our team that are so important to the way that we play that have these like almost like little brother inferiority against them anyway. And we have a manager that I think is afraid of them as well. That's so I really wanted us to win this game because I think the game at the weekend is going to be how it always is anyway. So yeah. Um, Banag says backwards and sideways passes are the only thing we did today. We did not penetrate whatsoever. Jonathan says the other issues is we keep passing the ball and the all second half instead of shooting, wasting a lot of time. It's like we thought we had so much time, on our hands. It's crazy. Like Keenan says, ESR was a breath of fresh air, creating havoc and attacking and direct. Social Join says Zinchenko made mistakes for 15 minutes, subs him out after we conceded Arteta's fault. We turned up to play for a draw. What really annoys me is that like he subbed right after we conceded, which makes me feel like he was willing to ride it out with what we had as long as we didn't concede. I think I like proactive managers, not reactive. And I think one of the things that, we're looking for Arteta is to change things before it's a problem. Like one of the things that it's not really because Pep usually is like dominant all games, but there are times if you watch Liverpool play with Klopp, there are times where they get kind of behind or something happens, like when they're playing against Wolves, and Wolves were like super dominant in the first half. They made some changes at halftime and they just completely battered them in the second half. And I think one of the best things about a manager that makes them elite and a world-class manager is being able to problem solve on the fly, but also not letting the game get so far away from you that the changes don't make a difference when you actually make them. So being proactive and understanding how to make the game work for you, even though like your initial plan didn't really work. And I think we are very much so a plan A team. If plan A is not working, we don't have a plan B and we're reactive. So once the other team, like it was so clear from the beginning of the second half that nothing had changed, the energy was the same. And after they had that one chance that went right by the post, that they were going to get another one and score. And it took until them scoring for Arteta to make those changes, and that's so poor from him. Like, he had a poor game, Arteta, and, we're so one-trick pony right now. If it's not working the way that we're doing it, we're not gonna make it. So, yeah, it was bad. It was really bad. Ify's talking to somebody else. Martin N says, "Give them a 0, everyone." I mean, it's like I'm just gonna blow through them and say that everybody was so terrible. Mike TV says that crowd scared the Arsenal players for sure. Grow up, shit. Like I get that it's like their first time, but most of them it's their first time. But like, suck it up. Like pass the ball to each other. You know, um, I knew our inexperience was going to be an issue in this competition because people were, oh well, Odegaard's played. He's had 2 appearances in the Champions League in his life. 2. So that's like nothing. Vieira, a couple of little performances here and there for Porto before they dropped into the Europa League. Saliba, no, really. Gabriel, maybe a couple. Um, and we still lack leadership. We still lack players that can grab the game, make things happen, push us forward. I think Martinelli is so underrated in that way where he can get us up the pitch and make things happen. We're really missing him, and then without Saka, it's looking peak, but, like, I'm looking at other players, and I'm like, "Why didn't you step up?" And where was the gas pedal? Like, damn. Damn, damn, damn. I'm not rewatching this shit. I'm not rewatching this shit. I'm not rewatching it. The Sheikh says, "Players were crap. Don't bother with ratings. Just give Arteta a 0. They were so bad." Um, so yeah, Steven says Trossard was so bad and Havertz is genuinely awful in general. He needs to be sold soon. Um, yeah, the less said about that, the better. Michael, thank you so much for your super chat, by the way. Says it was one of those nights. Trossard and Tomiyasu really had bad games. Tomiyasu should not have been played as a right back. Jesus was getting bullied. Yeah, I mean, but that's, you know, Tomiyasu is somebody that is supposed to be able to play at right back. So, I'm not, but he also was kind of dodgy against Bournemouth on the left, and the best we've seen him play recently was in center back. So maybe there needs to be an acceptance that even though, Ben White does well at right back, that Tomiyasu is still more of a center back, so he shouldn't be played out there. But do we really have a choice because no Timber? I do think when I said that Timber injury was damaging, it was because he was going to cover right back, he was going to cover left back, and he was going to cover center back and at a high level. And there's just a level of finesse and there's a level of finesse that Timber has that, Kiwi and Tomiyasu don't quite have. Like, they're not terrible players on the ball, but when you get on those wings and you have the sideline next to you, you have to be a little bit more cute with the things that you do. And I just feel like Tommy, there's also a reason why he always plays on the left is because he's not that great on the right. So he did not have a good game. I do wonder if he was supposed to be more square when Raya kicked that ball to him, if he was too far up. But equally, I still think you need to look up and make sure that the player is actually available and in the right position before you kick it. And then that one opportunity that he had in the first half to just put the ball on somebody's foot, he just kind of kicks it into an area. And so, yeah, Tommy was poor. Everybody was poor, but Jesus was manhandled. And it reminded me a lot of the game against Lianco, where the guy got in his head and he was isolated up against this guy and he just continuously like had him on toast. Like it wasn't good. It was stinky. Um, Jean Rene says Trossard was the problem today for me. He was poor, but there was more problems. Zinchenko consistently coming central made it very easy for Lens to stop our attack because all they had to do was flood the midfield because Zinchenko just continuously middle. And then they finally decided like, okay, well, we're going to hit you in the spot that Zinchenko is not there. Kai makes a weak attempt at a tackle and they find a cutback, boom, goal. So there was several different issues. Zinchenko being too influential and being too much of like it was just too obvious. Like they knew he was going to do it. There was nothing different and he was always going to the right. Trossard was poor. What was Kai doing? Odegaard was poor. Jesus was isolated and poor. Tomiyasu was poor. And then Saliba and Gabriel are just back there kind of like passing it and being slow on the ball. Poor. Raya poor. Everybody was really bad. Really, really bad. I can't get over it. Like, it's so bad. CE says that inverted gameplay is killing us. We need to go back to a double pivot, especially away in Europe. I like that you say that because I just feel like it's been mentioned several times and I've been playing around with the idea of like, should Arsenal be playing a double pivot? All of our DMs would suit a double pivot a lot better. Rice and Partey can do the single pivot, but Jorginho, he's only really super useful when he's playing with another person. And because Kai Havertz is such a ghost in most games, I think it'd be more useful for Arsenal to have one ball winner and one on the ball DM and play with a number 10 because all of our players are number 10s. Like Odegaard is shifted into a number 8, but Emile Smith-Rowe, Vieira, Odegaard, and Kai Havertz are all by nature more of a number 10. So we should probably maybe look at it because playing this way, like Zinchenko also could play in a double pivot or maybe play as a number 10. I don't know, but like we've been found out with this inversion, and I think against really, really poor teams, it's still okay. But they know we're going to come central. They're fine with it. We're not getting the same bang for our buck, and he's too influential. And if he's not on the pitch, Zinchenko, we can't do shit. So it's either we have him do it, but it's redundant, and they already are planned for it, or he's not in there, and like nothing happens. And so I would like for us to learn how to play without Zinchenko and to learn how to play with 2 DMs or 2 deeper midfielders and a number 10 and do something a little bit different that people haven't seen. And get more production from our midfield because I think at this stage, any combination of, Jorginho and Partey and Rice or Jorginho plus a number 10 is going to give us more midfield production than having a ghost 8 and Odegaard and 1 DM. So, yeah, we need to switch something up. But Arteta's very headstrong. So he's going to double down on the things that he feels like we need to be doing, but right now it's not working. It works okay, but I'm even more worried now that we don't have like our first choice wingers, that they're not going to be creating for us either. So who's going to be the person doing it for us? It's crazy. I'm gonna look at the stats for the game because I know that they were really bad. So we actually had more shots on target than them. They had 3. We had 6. We had 67% of the possession. We had almost double. We did have double the amount of possession than them, passes. Our pass accuracy was like 90%, but like who cares? We had more fouls than them, same amount of yellow cards, and we had 5 corners to their 3. So again, for them, they were just better, like, period. Like, they were just better. So, um, I think it's a good thing that maybe Sevilla and PSV drew and neither one of them won. That keeps us in a decent spot, but, like, still, like, we shouldn't be losing this game, like, it's stinky. It just smelled really bad. Um, took the life out of me. Especially with the game at the weekend, like, we know how that's gonna go, so no Saka, no Martinelli. I don't give a fuck. They don't have Rodri. They still have Holland, and Jesus is not gonna give them a difficult time. Let's keep it 100. Shane says, "I've been saying it and will continue. Arteta's ego will cost us this season just like last season." Frederick says, "Today was a chance to play El Neni, Jorginho, and Rice." Um Boy says Arteta got schooled. The simple fact he didn't advise Zinchenko to run down the wing is shameful. I don't think Zinchenko ran up the wing not one time, not once. Every single time he got the ball, he came central and tried to figure out a way to get to the right hand side, to find Odegaard or to find Saka. And like it was just very obvious what we were trying to do, and there was just nothing going on the left. And I wonder if that's just like I don't trust the players on that side, like we remember when Jesus was playing on the left against Spurs, Arsenal just continuously passed it to Jesus and just completely bypassed Nketiah. And I wonder if that's like a little bit of there was 2 times in the second half that I almost crashed the stream because I was just like, "You know what? I don't need this in my life because Arsenal are not going to pay me for Botox and like therapy, so I don't need this in my life." Gabriel got the ball twice. Twice. Once, he tried to pass it to Havertz, and Havertz tried to run, so Gabriel passed it to him as if he should be coming to. Havertz tried to run, and Lance got the ball. Second time it happened, Gabriel tried to go long, and Havertz tried to come short, and so there's a lot of confusion on that side. I saw Trossard, like, do one of these because he was trying to pass it to Havertz, and Havertz just wasn't there. There's a moment where people were like, "Well, why did Odegaard slow it down?" I think Odegaard was waiting for Kai to make a fucking run. Like he was barely making it, and they were, oh, he's trying to stay on side. I don't know. I think there is a little bit of miscommunication on that side. And, once you pass it to somebody a couple of times and they run when you're passing it to them, or you pass it long and then they come to you, you stop passing it over there. And so I don't know if there's like a level of distrust over there, but like it smells on the left, like it does. And we need to use the left now because we don't have Saka. Our our Lord and Savior is not there anymore. So yeah, it's fucked. Alan says, I'll keep saying it. I'll keep saying I know after I heard yesterday that players went straight to the airport right after training yesterday and had to wait 5 or 6 hours to wait at the airport. Maybe that had something to do with it. I kind of was thinking that, and like I didn't want to say it, but at the same time, like, I don't know. Does that mean that we should play like we've never seen each other before? I don't know. I don't know, y'all. Shake says Zinchenko left Trossard isolated as he does with Martinelli plays. Stop the inverted crap. Shane says, Jess, would you trust Havertz? No, I wouldn't. Like, but again, like, I was saying it during the stream and people were like, you can't just blame everything on Kai. And I'm like, I'm not blaming everything on Kai. Like I said, everybody was poor. I think just watching how, Gabriel, I trust Gabriel more than I trust Kai, that he knows what we're supposed to be doing in that circumstance. Gabrielle has been here for 4 years, 4 seasons. So he's been working under Arteta this entire time. And so he knows whether or not that player is supposed to be coming short or going long. And so I think maybe Gabriel was probably doing the right thing and Havertz was not. And those little miscommunications are what just like that bugs me so much. Like the passing sideways and backwards, you know, but those are really costly because that's actually where the goals come from. That's why, Raya passing it to Tomiyasu, still not quite sure if it meant that like Tomiyasu should have been more square or not, but that is a goal. The way that we play, we have like one or two people back and like all you need is like one pass in and they're scoring. So that infuriates me and I'm like, is he not doing what he's supposed to? Is he lost? What? It's nuts right now what's going on the left-hand side. Top Gooner says, imagine if we got Madison, what was Arteta thinking? Coco says, in Europe, you have to be pragmatic. The margin for error is very little. One mistake and you are out. And that's the one thing. It's like in Europe, what I was kind of hoping for is Arteta would go with like a bigger back line. I know it's kind of like, well, Pep did that, but like it works. Shut the back door, make sure that you don't give up any goals, and then be a little bit more direct in attack. And it's hard for us to be direct right now because we don't have Martinelli and we don't have a real like a real number 9 or like a number 9 that has any height or physicality. But the fact that we're trying to play the way that we play in the Premier League in Europe is just a novice error. Like that you can't. We've seen it over the years. Possession-based teams that like unless you are prime fucking Barcelona, you need to adapt your way of play to Europe and not think that you're going to be able to. We're not good enough to do it. If Pep City was not good enough to do it and they had to modify their game in order to win Champions League and go further in the competition, then you damn skippy Arsenal need to do it too. And so I would have preferred to see just like a bigger back line. Maybe we should go to a double pivot, and play with just a number 10 and go that way. Maybe you do play with like an Emil Smith-Rowe or somebody that's a little bit more direct. I don't know. But right now, it just feels like we're like, this is the way that we play and we're just going to continue to do it. And we're getting bopped. We're getting killed. Kevin says Arteta should have played the second team with a few first team starter. There was no need for Saka to have played this game. Lon's defense was good. Plus, why can't we ever shoot from outside the box? I kind of hear what you're saying, but at the same time, I feel like this is like in hindsight, I do think we needed to go stronger because Lens was not an easy team, and just looking towards the weekend, like the team that you're talking about, like just playing a couple of like our second team players and like a couple of the first teamers, that team would have got even rinsed even worse. So, I think our first team not clicking is not a reason to retroactively say that we should have played our squad players because that team would have gotten rocked. It's we should have went strong, but this team should have played better. Like that team, like Lens, we could not have went in there with the team that played against Brentford. Couldn't have. We got killed. Maybe the back line, that back line is a more defensive back line. But hey, what do I know? There's 300 of you guys in here. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel. You're probably like, where are the player ratings? We're going to do those at the very end because it's going to be very, very quick. A says, Zinchenko is not a left back. Havertz is not a midfielder. Tomiyasu is not a fullback. Nuances of Fate says Tomiyasu's ball playing is poor. He keeps making the same mistake and everyone acts surprised. Coco says Vieira did nothing at right wing. I knew when he came on, he wouldn't do anything. It wasn't a game for... We needed to be more direct. We needed to be able to, like, the way that they were just pushing Reese and Trossard and Vieira and early on Saka off the ball, we needed to be more direct and we needed a little bit more physicality. Like, that team was getting on us and the ref wasn't calling shit. So, yeah, like, I knew once Vieira came on, he wasn't going to do anything. But that's the thing with Vieira and some of, like, quite a few of our, like, attacking, like, mids. They need a good foundation in order to operate. They kind of need a couple of players around them that are going to win those duels and find them into space, and then they make the magic happen. And so that's why I'm kind of thinking like in Europe, double pivot and 110, you might be able to get a little bit more out of a player like ESR, a player like Vieira, a player like Odegaard, because we need to be able to kind of like win the duels first and then like do the creativity. We couldn't do shit because we were just getting beat off the ball. It was just nonsense. It was just nonsense. Social Join says they just moved up the pitch once there was no pace threat. Then we conceded. Chosen One says, Jess, Mikel says Saka's injury doesn't look good. He came back on the bench and Gabby against Everton. Maybe it's a similar situation. Yeah, no Saka on Sunday. I mean, was the risk. And, to everybody that was saying you shouldn't play Saka, I'm sure you feel like that, you were right. And maybe you were right. Um, I just felt like we needed to go strong. So I was like, play with Saka, win the game, early and then take him off. That was probably the wrong thing to do. So fair enough. But no Saka, no Martinelli, bad loss, looking like shit against Manchester City. I don't give a fuck who they don't have. Um, it's not going to change the fact that they're going to be very confident going into that game because they always beat us. So why wouldn't they be confident? What has changed from last season to this season? What have we added that's going to scare them? We have Rice, who's obviously going to stop some of their attacks, maybe, but ultimately, we're pretty much the same team, but we've added Kai and we have no Martinelli and no Saka. So even without Rodri, like they're gonna look at that and be like, wow, this is great. Dale says, wow, speechless. See everyone Saturday. Need to help my sanity. No YouTube, no Twitter. Sorry, you can't do the same. I mean, it's good when we win, but it's terrible when we lose. Simon Dunn says, hopefully the concentration is on point for Sunday. Should Partey come in? He should have gotten minutes today. I'd be worried about putting him out there against, if he's not 100% fit, he really struggles. And it's Man City still. So yeah, it's a big worry. I think even playing Zinchenko against City is gonna hurt us. They know exactly what we want to do. So playing a player in a position in a way where City know more than anybody how it's going to work is kind of just setting ourselves up for what is the inevitable anyway. So I would not play Zinchenko at the weekend. I would try to play as I would be more defensive. Like I would. Like I know we're at home, but we're just not good enough and we don't have the mental stability to go out there and really go at them. I've never seen us truly go at them in a way where I was like, oh, we're really up for it. Because in order for us to go at them, we would have to be solid at the back and confident of stopping them. And we tend to just kind of give up really soft goals against them. So I hate that we're even talking about Man City now because it looks bad. So it looks bad already. Keenan says Kiwi or Gabriel Saliba White. Exactly. Something like that. That's what I would go with at the weekend. I would go with a double pivot. I would go with just Odegaard and, Partey and Rice. That's what I would go with. And whatever the fuck we have up front, Trossard, Jesus. We know what it's going to be. We know what it's going to be. It's probably going to end up be some combination of Jesus and Nketiah and someone else, so yeah, we're done. No, I'm so disappointed in what I saw today and leading up to a really important weekend. Um, if I'm Man City, I'm like, honestly, that is the best scenario that could have happened for them is we come into a game on the weekend against a team that we never beat with not our strongest. We never go into a game against Manchester City with our strongest lineup ever. And then we lose our best player and they don't have their best player, but it evens the game out, you know? I don't think have we ever won a serious game without Saka? I don't think we have. I don't think we haven't had to not have him. But there is a reason why Saka always plays, and it's because Arteta is a safety blanket. We don't have a way to beat them without him, so it's bad. Obi says, "I'm very sure City will batter, uh, is really well." Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's bad, but yeah. Aha says, "We were very poor, bar a 15-minute spell before the first goal in the first half. Thought Rice had a really good game and thought Zinchenko did well in the first half. That's about it." Yeah, Rice wasn't he was actually he did what he's supposed to do, but the thing is, like, there's just kind of like if there's like a one-man midfield in there where Odegaard's not really clicking and Havertz is nowhere to be seen, and you're asking Zinchenko to do everybody's job, what kind of midfield is that? It doesn't make sense. You need all three of your midfielders to be doing something. And I think this idea that like Havertz should just be able to like float around, do a couple wall passes here and there, foul a little bit, and that's enough. It puts a lot of pressure on like Odegaard and Rice, and then a lot of pressure on Zinchenko. And because everybody knows what Zinchenko is going to do, it's so hard. Like, you need all three of your midfielders to be fucking working and doing it and getting on the ball. And our midfield is dysfunctional right now. And I can't help but look at like one area, but some people will tell me it's because Odegaard is shit or Rice is not good enough. But despite Rice and Odegaard not being like maybe sometimes not playing their best, I don't know how you can't look at the glaring kind of like thing right there that's not really offering anything. When you think about how much Xhaka did defensively, keeping possession, he was a volume passer as well, Xhaka. Even though he was getting into the box and creating goals and stuff like that, he was doing a lot of stuff that like Havertz is just not doing. And so unless you're going to get somebody else to do it, because you also don't have Partey. So Partey and Xhaka were kind of different than Rice and Havertz. Rice and Havertz are a little bit more off the ball, and those two are a little bit more on the ball. And so being good off the ball is important. But if you're going to have as much possession as us, there has to be somebody else in there. And Zinchenko was very influential last season, but Xhaka was still doing a lot of work. It wasn't like Xhaka was just there. Like, he was doing a lot of shit. And so we have one less person doing a big job. And we have a different DM that specializes in something just a little bit different. One is a little bit more on the ball, one is a little bit more off the ball. So Arteta needs to figure out a way to make sure that the left center mid is also holding up their end of the bargain. Because Xhaka was not just doing wall passes. He wasn't. He was doing a lot in there. So maybe the ideal scenario against, Manchester City is to play Partey and DM, and Rice can do the Xhaka stuff because he's going to get on the ball. He's gonna, win his duels, and he's gonna offer a little bit of something on that side. Um, and then maybe we don't have to have Zinchenko do absolutely everything. Um, so yeah, like, even though Xhaka's role changed and he wasn't like, Partey was the main fulcrum in there, but Xhaka did do a lot of things just besides just getting into the box. That's not being done now. Like, a lot of the things that he was doing is not being done now. So if you take away a little bit of the on the ball stuff from Partey and you take away everything that Xhaka was doing, there's a big position that's not being addressed. There's a lot of roles that are not being addressed because we don't have the same two players in there. So Rice is playing really well, but there needs to be probably a high volume passer, creative dynamo on the left. And we don't have that. And Zinchenko can't do it all. It's crazy to ask him to do it all as well. Makes no sense. Um, Let's see. Social Join says Xhaka is balling at Leverkusen. I understand exactly why he left. Well, he left because he didn't want to deal with the pressure anymore. So if you read his interview where he said the exact reason why he wanted to leave, it wasn't because he didn't think Arsenal were good or Leverkusen were better. It was really because the pressure and the criticism was too much. So that's the reason why he left. He ran from the grind. Keenan says Pep and his team trained Bernardo to do all the Xhaka things and converted him from a right wing to a left center mid. Arteta needs to be able to train our players to fulfill the role. I mean, if he thinks Kai can do the Xhaka role, then he needs to be asking Kai to do a lot more. And like I said, like, one of the biggest indicators of like why Xhaka and Havertz cannot inhabit the same position in the same way is, even though Xhaka was not like somebody that could wiggle away from pressure, he understood how to get his body in between him and the man and win a foul for us. He did that so constantly. Like, he was so switched on to like, if I lose the ball here, they're going to be on the attack. So I need to find a way to get my body in between the ball and the man, fall on it, win the foul, and then we get up the pitch, because he knew what his limitations were. Where when Havertz gets it, if he's crowded by two or three guys, they win it like that, because he's not going to put his body in between him, like the man and the ball, and he just doesn't have that switched on of like a midfielder that has a constant eye on everything that's going on. And so he can try to train Havertz into this position, but to spend 65 million on a player that doesn't naturally know how to do it is a very strange move, and it's continuing to be quite strange. Um I love, like, and the thing is like, I thought we needed to move on from Xhaka, and people are like, we should have kept him. Maybe we should have kept him. But I still think this past summer was an opportunity to bring in somebody that was, like, even better than Granite. Somebody that can wiggle away from pressure, somebody that like some of the players that have went to other teams, we don't have to go over it again, we know what their names are, so, even though I get the Jack 11, you know, Xhaka was really good for us last season. Had we had just gotten somebody that knows how to play left center mid and is a natural midfielder, I think we would be in a much better position. Because Xhaka had limitations, but what I will tell you is he knew what his limitations were and tried not to get caught out by them, especially under Arteta. Thank you so much, O'Malley, for your super chat. Said Odegaard as a captain has to be held to higher standards in games like this. The Champions League is about moments and not about the best footballing team. Players have to realize this and step up. I do think, yeah, like he didn't have a very good game and he was pretty non-existent as soon as Saka came off the pitch. And so if his ability is very heavily like linked to Saka, then he needs to look at himself and figure out a way to be influential beyond the patterns of play that we have. And maybe we're a little bit too overcoached. Maybe we're the type of team that without the patterns just there, we can't like work outside of those patterns. And Saka and Odegaard are kind of like a package deal where, they do the things together and they understand each other and how it's going to work. And that's where Ben really works. But I don't think any elite team has to have like specific players in there or else you cannot function or a player becomes like a ghost. And so it is a little bit of a red flag that, Odegaard does seem a little bit attached to Saka. And like, if he's not there, then he's like not as influential. But, it's all about how they're coached and how what they're being asked to do. And do we do anything outside of the patterns to like allow different players to be in those positions and it still feel comfortable? Feels like we have not quite gotten used to having other players in the team. And I feel like now we're like 10 games in. People should be used to each other and being used to other players in those positions. And it just feels like if Saka's not there, or Ben's not there, or Odegaard's not there, or Jesus is not there, or Zinchenko is not there, we don't know how to operate. That's strange. That's not something that I think that's a coaching issue more than anything. But we also don't have any, we have a really good system that works for us, but we do lack a little bit of like individual brilliance. And I don't know if those players have it coached out of them, because we know Martinelli is the type of player that's like individual brilliance. Like we know when he came in, that's what he had. But you have to have players in your team that can do things out of nowhere. And we don't really have that right now. So yeah, it's interesting. But it's not good. It's not good. There's 250 of you guys still in here. We're gonna go ahead and do player ratings soon because I need to go ahead and get out of here. But yeah, boy says, is Fabio not ready to be a real player this season? I did say he has until December, but fuck that. He needs to ball now. I'm not gonna act like I didn't see him play well for the like 3 games. He played really well so far this season. So him coming into that game at halftime or whatever, when the team was super dysfunctional, I really can't look at him or ESR or Nelson. I kind of understand what you're saying, but like that's also disregarding the fact that he was really good against Fulham, Man United, he was good against Everton. So like, and he wasn't even bad against Spurs, so I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if I'm looking at Vieira as somebody that, like, was the one that needed to step up or be that guy. We all know that he's not really built to play right wing anyway, so I still don't even know why we don't just bring in Reece. Like, Reece is a natural winger, so I don't know why he brought in Vieira anyway. Didn't make sense. Keenan says, "Havertz was brought in to play our new 3-2-4-1 formation, which fell apart when Timber got injured. He doesn't work with a three-man midfield." it, I'm gonna keep it really real with you, Keenan. Like, I hear what you're saying. We spoke about it a lot over the summer around, okay, so Timber's gonna play inverted into midfield and he's gonna operate in this position with Rice and Odegaard and Havertz is just gonna be going into like these the into the box and arriving and it's gonna work. On paper it sounded really good, but if it only took one player for all those like dreams to go down the drain. And like now that you're saying that, it does make more sense why Arteta was like, you know what, is he was gonna play like Ben and Saliba and Timber back there, and then have Timber pinching into midfield or whatever the fuck. And then once Timber went out, like then he's like consistently going with Partey to try to maintain that midfield that doesn't involve Havertz trying to be involved in it. We shouldn't be buying players to play in positions that if one player is not there, they're rendered useless. That is poor planning because you should be able to look at a player and say, their role is not just connected to this one person. So, because what if Timber, like they should have said, what if Timber gets injured? What is Havertz going to do? You know? So it looked good on paper and it sounded great, but ultimately just buy a midfielder, you know, just buy a midfielder, and then you don't have to have this scenario where Timber gets injured and then a player that you spent almost 70 million on is rendered useless. Um, so yeah, but a lot of our plans I know fell apart after Timber because he was going to start. People were telling me he was going to be a rotational option, baby. Baby, he was going to start. He was going to start, okay? And so yeah, I don't know. Boy says, if one injury fucked up the system, then it's not a real system. And I agree with that. I think, a lot of our plans, hopes, and dreams were based on Timber. It was a real blow. You could see from the moment that he came into the team that he was not just like some rotational option. And, they were talking about how the Rice position, Rice and Timber, those two were really planned out because without them, Havertz doesn't work. Well, then we don't need him you know, then we don't need him, man. David says, followed Arsenal since 1970. Current side is good, but no plan B or C. When A fails, we must play with more intensity in the UCL. Midfield was wrong tonight, and second half of London Derby got overrun. And yeah, I hear what you're saying. And like, this team is good, but it's not as good. It's not as good as the teams of the past. The teams of the past had more physicality. They could be more direct. Like you think of the things of the like teams of the past, they had Henry, but they had Kanu and Wiltord on the fucking bench. So they had other options and they could do other things and they were more versatile. Our team is a very much so like a one idea. And when that one idea doesn't work, even with Xhaka and Partey and Odegaard, sometimes that midfield got found out, but we couldn't do anything else because we had no one else. So yeah, it's crazy, like, it really is, like, here to there says, "Spot on, Timber was a massive upgrade on Zinchenko defensively. ESR has to play over Kai versus City." Don't even give about City anymore. I'm so mad that I said I was gonna do a watch along because I really could just watch from behind a couch, and after the first goal goes in, just, switch it off. Chosen One says, "Arteta said that Saka felt something after trying the back heel and that it's muscular." He's out for the City game, so but that also should mean that he doesn't go to England, so maybe it's a blessing in disguise. Who fucking knows? He can take 2 or 3 weeks off, and hopefully he's back to normal, but who knows? Yeah, so let's go ahead and get into these player ratings because, you know, that's what we're here for. We've been here for like an hour. Let's blow through these. There's 215 of you guys still in here, so make sure you guys like this video and subscribe to the channel because still love y'all. Still love y'all. It's not your fault that Arsenal played like crap. Rhea, 3. First goal, your fault, man. You didn't stop anything. Your distribution wasn't that good. And you blew it, buddy. So you get a 3. Yeah. You get a 3. I don't know. I don't know. The first goal was just like quintessential Arsenal in possession under no threat whatsoever. Tries to pass it a lofty little ball to Tomiyasu. It's cut out and 1-2 passes and the ball is in the back of the fucking net. I mean, if that's not Arsenal, I don't know what is, So Chinese saying give him a 2. Shake says 3. John Donut says 2. I'll name that account later says 3. Boy says giving everyone a 2. Really, exactly. Like we're gonna just go straight through these. Ramsdale didn't play. Ben White came on. He didn't change the game. Imagine having to bring on, Ben White to try to save you. Like, what was he gonna do? 5. He didn't change the game, but he didn't do anything either. Saliba didn't have a bad game. I'm not sure if he should have done better for either one of the goals. I need to look at them back, but it just looked like we were in possession. And when you're in possession under really no threat, like when you give it away the way that we did, everybody's out of position and you don't have guys in the right places at the right angles. And so it was a well-worked goal from Lon. So I don't know if I can't really say it was poor defending, but we were just poor in possession. And so the second goal, Eli Wahi is by himself in the like we're keeping our line. I don't know if Rice should be on him or Saliba should be closer. So nevertheless, I don't think he had like the worst game in the world, but you were out there the whole time, buddy. I'll give him like a 4.5. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't think he was like the worst, but he definitely wasn't the best. 4, Arteta subs were terrible. 4, Solman says, I expected Ramsdale for Raya. I think Ramsdale is better than Raya, in my opinion. We can see how exposed Raya is today. Um, I don't know how anybody, even despite watching Raya play, can say that they think Ramsdale is better. I know that we want to protect Ramsdale, but like there's enough data out there that says that there's nothing out there that says that Ramsdale would have saved any of those or not made a mistake in possession. So, we can keep running this Ramsdale is better than Raya thing, but like, I don't know. Ask rivals, ask neutrals, ask the club, ask anybody that looks at the stats. It's kind of obvious who's a better goalkeeper. So, we can keep playing this game. Like we can keep playing this game. I'll continue to play it with you guys, but I feel like it's pretty clear at this stage. Um, Gabriel 3.5. Yeah, man. So yeah, let's go to Gabriel. He gets like a 4 2. Like, I don't know. Like the defense, it's not like they had to defend that much, but they also didn't really stop anything from going in when they had the chance. So, we had all the possession. So yeah, 4. Barry says we got away with one before their second goal. They had a cutback that Raya was diving the wrong way. So luckily it hit the side netting. So they had a similar chance to their second goal that we escaped. I agree. Like that's when I said that they would score and would win because even though that we were meant to be the team pushing, they were getting in and getting clear chances while we were really struggling to muster up anything. Edward says the way that they were pressing us, Ramsdale might have given up more goals. I don't know how anybody can sit there with a straight face and say this means that Ramsdale was better when we watched him for the last 2 seasons. Um, let's be serious. I'll name this account later, says Gabriel 4. And Boy says, doesn't matter if Ramsdale started today, we still lose anyway. Exactly. Like, but you know, agenda's gonna agenda. Whoa, you had a bad game, buddy. It's so funny because we're just praising him so much for the performance against Brentford. And then I thought he was dodgy against Bournemouth when he came on the left. And he was, I mean, 3, man. Like, that's so bad, Tommy. Like, you just got to play center back. You just got to play center back. You just gotta play center back. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what else to say, man. Obi says, I was surprised how Lons pressed for 90 minutes. Embarrassing. I mean, I would just keep pressing us if it was giving me joy. We are not press resistant, that's for sure. And well, we used to be able to like pop it around teams really easily when they would press us. Now we're like very like lethargic on the ball and like we need a million touches. Like Rice needs to like touch it a million times before he finds the next pass. Like some of our like passing patterns last season were like you could close your eyes and they could just pop it around. Now I don't know if it's because the same people aren't there or what, but like we're not doing it anymore. Like it's so bad. Tommy was so bad. Convent says, I don't understand why Tommy was inverting because no matter what, no matter who's there, we invert one. And I think it's to compensate for Kai not being a true midfielder and wanting Kai to play this off the ball role. But when you don't have Xhaka there, who is doing a lot more than Kai, puts a lot of pressure on the player inverting and also makes it very predictable because our combinations on the left-hand side with Martinelli, Xhaka, and Zinchenko had a lot more depth to them than what we're doing now. Zinchenko completely ignores the left-hand side and goes to the right to try to find players that he can play with. On the left-hand side, it was like, he's like, I'm not going over there. So yeah, it's just, we can't just invert because that's the way that we play. We need to find solutions with the players that we have. And right now, I think Arteta needs to like not do Kai and play a double pivot and try something different. I would love to see something different because what we're doing right now, people can tell me it's gonna unlock at some stage, but I'm watching a, like a system that doesn't work, like we were saying earlier, without like somebody like Timber in the team. So yeah, fuck this system. Do something else. Tommy was shit. Let's keep going. Good first half, kind of like whatever second half. Um, At a position on their second goal. So yeah, you were pinched in, which they were like, oh, there's all this space over here. This guy never comes over on the side. So let's just like be here. 4.5, poor. What else? Like, but at the same time, it's like, even against Bournemouth, as good as Zinchenko was, I was uncomfortable with the amount of ball that he was getting. Like, last season, it was different because he was primarily on that left-hand side. Now he's coming all over to the right, and he's on the ball constantly, and he's getting picked off in midfield, and he's going into crowded alleys and stuff. I'm like, he is being asked to do so much because we only have, like, 1.5 midfielder in the midfield. That is not gonna work, you know? So he was okay, but I think Zinchenko suffers more from the way that we play rather than him not being a good player or not doing his job correctly. I think we're asking him to do way too much. We've been found out as well, and so he needs to be given less of a role so that when he does do his thing, it's not as clockable. Right now, he is clocked. He's clocked. Um, Shake says, I don't recall Zinni ever making one good pass. He did. He made early on in the game, he made one really good like threaded ball, I think, into Saka. So he did have good passes. Like um we need to do something different with the rest of the midfield. Boy says two for Zinni. Here to there says Zinchenko literally has a free roll. It's beyond inverting. It's because like I really do think it's a lot of it is because like we have one guy in there that just you have one guy in there that just is not there, so he has to do more heavy lifting. So yeah. Moby says Zinni 2. Yeah, Zinchenko 6. So everybody's kind of on the same page. Like he wasn't probably the worst, but he definitely was not great. Next, we're gonna go to Kiwi. You didn't play. You didn't play. Probably the best player on the pitch. But again, you know, I do really push back on the idea that Rice doesn't pass forward because the numbers definitely don't back up that narrative. He's one of our most progressive players, and maybe that's a problem. Maybe Rice being one of our most progressive, probably our most progressive player in terms of like if you look on like FB Ref and you look at like our most progressive passer, it's Rice. So he is passing forward, he is getting us up the pitch, but maybe that's a problem. Maybe we need other players progressing us up the pitch. Maybe it can't just be him. And I think his role is to keep the ball ticking along and allow the eights to do what the fuck they're supposed to be doing. But there's only one eight. There's one eight, and that one eight is not really playing at his best of his ability. And then you have somebody else that has a free role that's kind of in midfield, but like doing this wild shit that like nobody else would ever do. Having Zinchenko just like you guys said, like this free role. It's cool when it works, but it's kind of like cringy when it's not because nobody else does it. And it's like, well, what's the point of having a midfield and spending all this money on it when we're not going to let them do their job? So Rice was fine today. I think the second goal, somebody needs to be on the number 9. There's 5 of us and one of them, and the ball went straight to him and there was nobody there. So can't give him too high of a score. Probably just gonna give him a 5. Not hit like I think on the second goal he should do better. Or somebody should be there. But, you know, Arteta needs to find a way to get more out of his midfield. And if Rice is more of an off the ball player than Partey, um, and you got another guy that's just not even being told to do any midfielding, your midfield isn't gonna work. So figure it out. Boy says Rice gets a 5, everyone else gets a 2. He did keep us in this game, but the team was so shit. Exactly. I'll name this account later, says Rice 5, Arsenal struggle to break the press when he is in the 6. He will have stats saying he passes the ball forward because that is his role, but it doesn't mean he's good at it. I mean, fair enough. I just don't see him as the reason why we're not clicking in midfield. I think you bring in somebody that's a little bit different than Partey, and then you have to modify things in order to like make sure the roles are still being done. Like if Rice is in there with Xhaka, do we see a huge drop off? Probably not, because Xhaka is doing all the other shit, and Havertz is not really doing anything. So yeah, I don't know how you can have passing stats and be our most progressive passer, and not be good at it. Explain that to me because, you know, they don't count progressive passes that don't make it to the person. So like he would have to have like a really bad pass complete. That's one thing that we have to look at because like if you're saying that he's not really good at it, what I remember about Partey is that he was very, like, good at breaking the lines, but his pass completion wasn't as high as other players like Rodri, and maybe that's because he took more risks, and those risks are the reason why we're breaking teams down. Rice takes less risks, so it doesn't look like we're progressing the ball as well, but you also don't get that odd vertical pass that gets picked off from your DM, and, you also don't have a DM there that gets easily bypassed, so there's pluses and minuses to both. I think if you have Partey in the role, then maybe you can break down teams better. But when teams are coming at you the other direction, he can't stop them from scoring goals. He can't stop them from running through our midfield. So right now, you know, what do you want? Do you want a player that could potentially get better at breaking the lines, like Rice, who has like probably 4 or 5 years, like of his best years ahead of him? Or do you want somebody that's probably maybe marginally like a better passer, threads the needle a little bit better, but he's never going to get better off the ball? So what do you want? Or do you want both of them to play together? Then you have a different type of midfield that's maybe a little bit more robust. But I have questions about Rice in the 8 role as well. So that's a conversation for another day, I think. But Rice was good. He was a 7, 5 for Rice. Like he was much better than everybody else. Anton Dunn says we didn't really spend so much on Rice and Havertz. We didn't need to spend that much on Rice and Havertz. This money could have been used so much better to have us ready on all fronts. I don't know, Rice. Why is Rice being like wrapped in with Havertz? Like Havertz was 70 million. We spent 100 million on a player that I think does make us better, especially like in terms of the off the ball stuff. Like I am so sorry, but like going into this season with the same DMs that we had if we just had Partey and Jorginho, you would have had Jorginho playing for the last 5 games because Thomas Partey would have been injured. So, I think Rice was a definite move that we needed to make. It's fine. Like but I think Havertz is the one that really stands out. I think people wanna wrap Rice in because they're mad that Thomas Partey has been disrespected, but Rice has been really good for us, and he may not be as good of a passer as Partey, but what he offers off the ball for me is what's gonna help us not like, it's gonna be the difference between us being in a title race or not, winning things or not, because if your DM is just getting easily bypassed every time we're out of position, you're not gonna win anything. So, it's a tough conversation because I do think people are highly sensitive to Thomas Partey because they feel like Rice being there, people liking Rice means that you don't rate Partey. It's not true. But Arteta needs to figure out what his best midfield is. I don't think his best midfield at the moment has Havertz in it. And I think people putting Rice in that same category is a little bit disrespectful because he's not really he's been our best player in a lot of our games. So, maybe adding Partey is more of the issue rather than Rice needing is like a waste of money or he's not good or, whatever. Because I see some weird shit about Rice and I'm just like, is it all because you guys are like in love with Partey or something? Like Partey is fine. Like but let's not act like we didn't see what happened last season or that he's unavailable. Like when people were saying, oh, well, look at what Rice did against Spurs. If Partey was there, Partey wouldn't have been there because he's injured. So it's a weird thing. We get really locked into player FC. It's Rice versus Partey. It's Ramsdale versus Raya. But ultimately, like you can have our best midfield could actually have the two of them in it, but constantly pinning them up against each other, I think is a little wild to me, especially when Rice has been good for us. He's just not as good of a passer. He doesn't look as slick on the ball as Thomas Partey. And maybe it's the drop of the shoulders and that kind of stuff. But when you watched him against Bournemouth, he did drop the shoulder like 3 or 4 times and got past those Bournemouth players and were progressing us up the field. So it's just a weird one for me to wrap Rice in with Havertz as like a waste of money or a player that doesn't make us better because I do think out of possession we've been better with him. To be honest. Keenan says Partey isn't better than Rice. They both have their pluses and minuses. Losing Xhaka is the reason why we have dropped off. I think Keenan's right here. I think that that's probably the best way. Like, we're focusing on things that aren't like, it's really obvious. I feel like it's obvious what's wrong with the midfield or what's wrong with us. Like, I feel like it's obvious. Um, and it doesn't really have anything to do with Rice. I don't think if you stick Partey in there with Havertz, anything changes. But do I think if Xhaka is in there with Rice, are we good? Yeah. If Xhaka is in there with Partey, are we good? Yeah. So the position that we didn't recruit properly was the left center mid. But did we need to go get another DM? Yeah, we did, because our DM, who's excellent on his day, spends half of the time on the medical table. And when he does get into big games, sometimes he has major head loss, especially when the pressure is on. So yeah, it's tough. I think it's tough, so yeah. Barry Burns says Vieira for Saka was a poor sub by Arteta. He needs to get better at subs. It didn't really make sense to put Vieira in. I don't know why he's so apprehensive about using Reese. I get that Reese wasn't amazing when he came on, but like at the stage in which he came on, the players had already kind of given up. Like the heads had dropped. It was really poor, So I don't really understand why for Vieira. I would love to ask him because Vieira wasn't getting past none of those men. No, he wasn't. DJ Polar says, why does Havertz pass like his foot is made of glass? My eyes aren't tricking me, right? It's because he's played forward for the last 3 years. So when you're a forward and you're getting on the ends of things, too, remember the way he played for Chelsea as a number 9 was like as a true number 9. It wasn't even like a false 9 the way that we do with Jesus. So he wasn't even be asked to be like super in the play. So he wasn't passing for 3 years. And so he's just getting on the ends of things, trying to finish chances, headers, stuff like that. And so now we're asking him to play in a position where we had a high volume passer and midfield fucking maestro in there in Xhaka, who his game is passing. Ping, hard passes. He would put his laces through shit. He was that was his job. Like, that's what if Xhaka can do anything, he can pass a fucking ball, okay? Um, and we've replaced him with somebody that has been playing forward for 3 years and like a striker. So he kind of has that Joe Linton role a little bit but Joe Linton doesn't get knocked off the ball. Remember when Joe Linton went from being a forward or a striker into midfield? He doesn't really do a lot of the ball playing stuff, but he does win his duels, win the ball back, get into the box, make runs. He's progressive, and Havertz is just none of those things. Like, he doesn't make aggressive runs. Like, your runs also dictate like how you pass to a player indicates what you want them to do with it. If you pass it in space, you want them to run onto it. If you pass it to their feet, you want them to keep the ball, things like that. If you pass it with pace, then you want to speed up the tempo. I think also the way that you run indicates what you want to happen. And when you make runs and they're not dynamic runs and you're kind of just doing it because that's what you feel like you're supposed to be doing, people don't want to pass it to you, and I'm just not seeing any sort of dynamic running, hard passes, nothing, from that side. So I'm having a hard time connecting with, Rice or, Odegaard had a really fucking poor game and he needs to do better. Trust and believe. You guys know I'm a huge Odegaard fan. I'm going to call it, well, he's shit, period. But there's something going on that side, and it's stinky and it's smelling, it's real bad. So yeah. Boy says Havertz has to be recoached by Arteta, but why are you buying a player that needs to be recoached at this stage? We needed to go up to another level. Ooh. Sorry guys, I don't know why they're calling. But yeah, we needed to go to like the next level. We didn't need to have like a babysitting project. Like, that's something I'll never understand, like why we brought in somebody that needed like rehabilitation and a reprogramming. Like, when there were so many options for less money that wouldn't have needed any of that shit. Covenant says, I don't think our team is that bad, but our problem is Kai Havertz. His negative energy is spreading throughout the team. Everyone is trying to carry him and is costing us. I think the best that we've played this season was like kind of when he hasn't been on the pitch, to be honest. Like, I know people don't love Vieira, but I actually think Vieira has been better in that position than Kai Havertz this season because he actually wants to affect the game and find passes, and he's busy. He doesn't win the duels, but ultimately I think we just don't have the right player there that can play there for every single game. Um And so we're missing something there. And we're already like fully in the season now. And we have to find an internal solution. And Arteta's avoiding the obvious thing to do, which is play. You could play Jorginho and Rice. You could play, you could have played Partey and Rice today. You need to get Havertz out and try something different with a player that's not afraid to be involved in the game, because you don't have Timber there, and Zinchenko has been found out, and he's doing too much work. You need 3 midfielders that are willing to carry the load, And, right now, you don't have enough in there. So that's kinda where I'm at with it. Keenan says, "With Rice, Partey, Odegaard midfield, we have better subs. Vieira can come on for Odegaard when he's tired. ESR can come on for Rice with more attacking outfit. Jorginho is more serviceable with Rice next to him." That makes a really good point. You want to start with kind of like your strongest, most balanced situation. And then, like you said, have different tools to change the game. I think when you start with Vieira, sometimes like there isn't that player to come on and change the game, because Vieira is our best midfielder off the bench to change the game. ESR could also become that as well. So you make a really decent point, but I feel like that's like the obvious thing to do. And we're not doing it because he wants to like make this work. Whole corn, man. Just say, you know what? This ain't working. But he did, I mean, we still don't know whether or not he did that for the Community Shield and played Thomas Partey and Rice, if that was just because, Jesus wasn't there, because he played Havertz up there instead of because there was no Jesus. So I'm still not convinced that like in big games or games period that that's what he would do, because he could have done it from minute 1. He could have done it from the first game when we played against Nottingham Forest. He didn't have to do what the fuck he was doing. He could have played, you know, anybody else really and truly. He could have played Gabriel, and, Timber could have been out there, Saliba could have been out there, and he could have played Thomas Partey in midfield with Rice, but he chose to put Thomas Partey at right back. So I'm not fully convinced that Arteta is going to do the obvious thing. I think he's making a point with Rice that he's the number 6 now and Partey is not. But, if Arteta wants to win games, he will fall on his sword and open up his options a little bit more and use players in positions where they can thrive, and just be okay with the idea that Havertz is probably not working out right now. It's not like he's playing horrible, but he's offering not enough for us to really be like getting down with this, You're not offering enough. But let's keep going because we're just stalking. Odegaard, another poor game. Did really well against Bournemouth, but kind of reverted back to what we had against Spurs, which was just kind of like not really there. And so he was kind of lost. So I'm gonna give him a 4. He's my boy, great player. But if there is a little bit of like a connection with Odegaard, where if he's not playing with Saka, he's non-existent, that has to be changed. Arsenal cannot be the type of team where no Saka, no Martinelli, no one or two players, and like other guys cannot even like function. Like that would be like just no. So maybe we're a little bit overcoached where we have these patterns of play and they only really happen when certain guys are out there. But if that's the case, we just kind of need to like do something different. So 4 for Odie, not good enough, needs to step up. Fabio, I'll give you a 4 as well. Didn't really make a difference. Not really the right sub. Not really your fault either. The game was lost the minute that we conceded. You could just see the energy shifted. And if that's all it takes, we're going to be in Europa League, buddy. We might not even be in Europa League. We need to be able to teams score goals and we come back and do our thing. And it can't just be at the Emirates when the 90th something minute. The way that the energy fully dropped when we conceded showed a lack of mentality for a team that's so highly regarded. And that's why I never really rate us as high as other people, because as much as I love this team and I think they're on their way to be something special, what keeps them back more than anything is mentality. Mentality is our biggest bugbear. When the chips are down, when our back is against the wall, when we need to get it over the line, guys hide, and we don't have enough leadership and we don't have enough guys that are going to stand up and make shit happen. And you know, so I never really worry about us in terms of like our talent. There's enough talent in the team, but we don't have enough backbone, and that's half of the game. A team like Lons will dominate you if you don't have the right mentality. And I think today our mentality was really bad. So we couldn't even persevere beyond the bad touches or the lack of possession or security in possession because our mentality was really shit. So that's my biggest worry with Arsenal is not necessarily who we have out there, and that, but I think with the right mentality you can persevere beyond most things. But our mentality and the way our heads drop and the way we have head loss and the way we don't manage emotional moments are the reasons why we won't get to where we want to be, and that all stems from the manager as well. So back to Vieira, he wasn't terrible, but he also didn't change the game. Um we just spent so much time talking about this guy. I mean, what else do you want to say? um I'm not really getting it. I'm struggling. Where's the confidence? This is the thing. It's like you replaced a leader on the pitch and off the pitch, a vocal person as well, because we may be like lacking a little bit of that vocal leadership from Xhaka as well. Because as much as Odegaard is the captain, Xhaka was really like a co-captain for real, you know? And so we had a very experienced player in that position that led on the pitch and off the pitch. He wasn't afraid to get on the ball. He was reliable in possession. He understood the role and he never hid. And you replace that person, confident as well. You replace that person with somebody that needs therapy and reprogramming, you know? And you can say, well, what about Rice? But Rice is taking over the experience and, at least like physical leadership of Thomas Partey. So what is he supposed to do? I just don't really understand why a team that needed to go to the next level is going to bring in somebody like Kai Havertz, not even from a footballing perspective, but from like a personality and mentality perspective. Like that's wild to me. He was like, I'm just going to give him a 4 because I don't want people on my back, but he was poor. Period. Like, fuck. Yeah. Covenant says Fabio is not a winger, and that's why it didn't work. Saka needs backup. Neto in January, please. Charisma says, I guarantee any get Zidane in as manager and Arsenal will be much better. Hinton Dunn says, that's why I love Rice. He's the only one that tries not to look like a pussy. We have a lot of guys out there that hide when shit gets hard. Boy says, Havertz needs Zinchenko to stop occupying his space. That don't have nothing to do with him running away from the ball when Gabriel's trying to pass it to his feet, or when the Lens players would put any sort of pressure on him not being able to keep the ball. As a systematic issue, of Zinchenko doing too much, that could have affected Havertz. But whether Zinchenko is there or not, whether it's Tommy, whether it's whoever, Havertz has the same game where he's just not effective. And so, yeah, systematically we have an issue, but I think he's a big part of why the system doesn't work too. So to me, it all kind of circles back to this decision that the club has made to replace somebody of such quality and personality and responsibility with somebody that needs this level of rehabilitation, that also never really doesn't really play that position. There's a lot that needs to happen with Havertz before he looks serviceable in that position. And it's just a job, like a side mission that we didn't really need. And it's disrupted everything. We are already going to disrupt our midfield by bringing in Rice. That was enough of a disruption. So you needed to do the safe thing. Either convince Xhaka to stay or just bring in a guy that knows what he's doing, period. Keenan says it's not Havertz's fault. Arteta and Edu need to be blamed for buying the wrong player and trying to force him into the wrong position. That's where I'm at with him too. Like, it's not like if I'm Havertz and I've been at Chelsea for so long, you damn Skippy, I'm going to jump ship if my agent says Arsenal wants you. I'm going to pack my bags. I'm going to head over to North London. I'm going to get me a nice house over there. I'm going to take my pictures and I'm going to play wherever the manager asked me to play because I am failing up in life. I've been poor, but somehow I got the move of a lifetime to a club that's on the up with a great young team that is in Champions League, blah, blah, blah. So it's not his fault that he's here. And it's not his fault that he's being played in a position that doesn't suit him. I am firmly looking at Arteta and everybody that made the decision because it's looking worse and worse by every single day. And even though against Bournemouth he wasn't terrible, the thing is like his performances really do range from poor to okay. And that's just not good enough. On days where he's okay, people try to really gas it. But like, we know what that position entails: goals, assists, duels won, tons of running, energy, getting involved. And if that's not what the position entails, and this is what he's supposed to be doing, then I'm still looking at Arteta, because that system doesn't work. If the left center mid is not required to be involved in anything that we're doing in terms of build up or creating chances or anything, then this system doesn't work. And so it's still on the manager. It's still on the club, period. Um, I'll name this account later says, 3, he's not a center mid. Signing was weird when it happened. Still doesn't make sense. The manager isn't putting him in the position to succeed. Let's see. Obi says, I am questioning Arteta's talent ID. What the hell was that signing? Shocking. It's amazing to me that somebody played in midfield can identify a proper midfielder. The Sheikh says, Jess, you bottled it. Fair enough. I just don't want people on my back, man. Like, the amount of like annoying shit I get for just saying what's actually happening. It's like, it's my opinion. And I'm not one of those that's like, I hate Havertz, I have an agenda against him. Like, I'm not one of those. And you guys see, when I'm watching the games, I'll call it out when I think he does bad, but like, I am cheering him on. So I want it to work, but I'm looking at something that's not working. So I can't lie to you guys. Barry says, I like Arteta, but like the team is having to develop as manager. Expectations are high, and saying so much learning on the job is tough. Still confident, but we have a lot of maturing to do. And yeah, I just don't know why somebody would make their job so much more difficult. When Barry makes a really interesting point, and something that Yo-Yo's always said. If you guys have been in the chat very long, like, Yo-Yo has said this a million times, so it's not an original thought from me. But Yo-Yo has always said that this project really hinges on Arteta's development, because he is not the fully formed thing. Like, he is still learning on the job, and every manager is learning on the job, but he's learning like the basics. And so everything about how we progress and how good we're going to be and what we win is truly dependent on the manager developing. And we're seeing some similar patterns from last season, and he's been given so much power with such little, maybe, like, he's given a lot of power for somebody who hasn't done enough, I think, to warrant that power, that they give him like the anonymity to like bring in Kai Havertz to play midfield for 60 million, when we could have used a striker or any other left center mid that was available to us. And so, yeah, it's everything that we want to do hinges on whether or not Arteta can be the right manager, I think, because everything that we're seeing, Eddie playing minutes when he shouldn't, him moving Jesus to the left, playing Saka maybe too much if that's how you feel, Havertz being here, inverting too much, not making subs. That's all about Arteta. That's about the choices that he's making. So ultimately, a lot of this stuff falls back on him. So as much as people really focus on like Havertz, like he's trying to hurt us, Havertz didn't do anything but pack his bags and sign his contract and head up to North London. That's it. It's not on him. It's not on Eddie. It's on the manager, and it's on the club. So everything that we want to happen, all of our hopes and dreams really hinge on Arteta being a top manager, elite manager. And I'll be really honest with you guys. Like, I think Arteta has done a really good job building this team, getting us out of the mud, and he has a lot of great ideas. And I think he means well with everything that he's trying to do. But when I start talking about an elite level manager, I'm not quite seeing that. I'm seeing a good young manager, but Arsenal really need a elite world class manager. That's what it's going to take for Arsenal to win the Champions League, the Premier League winship. And like, I just think, is he on the same level as Pepper Klopp? No. And that is the type of manager that's going to take you to that level. And so either he needs to become that, or I don't know. And we don't have like a million years for him to get there either, because we only have certain players for a certain amount of time. It's a difficult conversation to have, but I don't think we have Saka and Saliba forever. Those two for sure, I don't think we have forever. So he needs to become an elite manager tomorrow, and I don't know if I'm seeing an elite manager. I think I'm seeing a good young manager with some teething issues that has been given a lot of power. And I just wish the club would have maybe not given him as much. Like, I wish the club would have, instead of saying like, oh, I want Kai Havertz, I wish they would have said, well, you need to work with Emil Smith Rowe because we're going to buy a striker because that's what you really need. And we're going to sell in Kedia. Or I know you really want Kai Havertz, but there's this other guy, blank, that's going to cost less that already knows the position. He can do all the things that you want Kai to do, but like, this player's better. I just wish we have like, I know that belief is super important. You have to believe that he's the guy, but I think sometimes you have to save people from themselves. And this is kind of the situation that they needed to save him from himself, because this is, something that we just did not need. Even if he felt like he was the right player, it just was a risk that we didn't need to take. Arsenal FC Moment says, I just said before signing Havertz that he doesn't have the intensity to play Arsenal system like Xhaka did. Boy says this is the season Arteta proves if his vision can fit in his head. If he's unable to unlock Havertz to find a plan B for this team, that he should probably leave. A said we could have had Klopp or Pep and still wouldn't win a major trophy with this ownership. I don't think this ownership really, like at this stage, when I look at the ownership, the amount of money that we've spent, I think we have to say that maybe we haven't spent it correctly in certain positions. And that's not necessarily up to we're not Man United. I don't think we're in a Glazers out situation. I think going into this summer is like a sliding like doors moment, really, because this is the season where Arteta needs to show that he can take us to the next level. And he could end up being a casualty of our success from last season, because we got to a place that we probably didn't anticipate being. And so now the job is for us to challenge again and to do well in the Champions League. And, you know, so it was just like a sliding doors like moment in the summer to use this 200 and something million, which is a lot of money that are like the Cronkies are fronting. I still think people don't understand when you're not in Champions League and you're on the self-sustaining model, the club is putting that money in. The owners are putting the money in. It may be through loans or whatever, overdraft accounts, but this was not coming from just they're putting the money up. And they gave they gave everybody, they gave us £200,000 plus to buy 3 or 4 players that were going to take us to the next level. Timber was a fantastic signing. Rice, fantastic signing. You could argue, did we need to go for Rhea? You could argue, could we have used that 30 million in a different way? But I think the one that really stands out is that we either needed to go for an attacker or we needed to go for a left-sided center midfielder to replace Xhaka. And we bought a player that's neither a forward nor a midfielder, that needs reprogramming and therapy. And that is what stands out to me. To me, it's not the ownership. It's if we made some weird decisions. So yeah. That's just a bigger question for another, that's a bigger conversation for another day. But Havertz, 4. Came on, tried to make things happen. Not his fault. Probably should have came on earlier. 6 for Emil Smith Rowe. Trossard, a mare, an absolute mare. Probably should score as well. He cuts it onto his right foot and hits it tamely to the goalkeeper. It was crap. He had a bad game. And again, this is one of my favorites too. So I am willing to go in on them when they deserve it. Trossard was awful. And I just hate when he has these moments where he could really solidify himself. I think it's unfair because he has these runs of games where he really solidifies himself and we're he should be starting. Then he gets a moment and then he does this like he did against Fulham. And I do think that he's going to be on the bench for a while after this. But poor performance, a 4. Damn, bad. Reese, again, like Emil, not your fault. You tried. You should have come on earlier. Maybe even started. Some people are saying so. 6 for Reese. I just cannot go in on Emil Smith Rowe or Reese because they probably should have come on earlier. And by the time they came on, the rest of the team had decided that they wanted to get on the bus and go home. Shame, a real shame. He's probably injured. Probably not going to play against Man City. Helps us score the first goal. He actually tracked back for a Tommy mistake as well when Tommy got into the final third and then just hit it into the, he could have picked out anybody and decided to just hit it into the area. It was cleared out. And then that's when Saka, ran back and covered his position. It's such a shame. Like, I'm gonna give Saka a 6. Like, um, he's our star, and it's unfortunate he's probably injured at this stage. So what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? And Kedia didn't really do anything. Came on, ran around a little bit. Not really his fault. Not really anything. 5, whatever. And that leaves Mikel and a 0. Like, fuck. Like, he had a really bad game, and you know, I don't want to see any quotes about us getting in late or anything like that. Like, man, you got to be able to get us over the line in Europe, man. Like, your record in Europe for Arsenal is really poor. And yeah, like, Arteta 2, 3, like, fuck, it was really bad for him. So 2. Um, what do you say? What do you say, guys? It was a really poor day at the office, and we have a really difficult game at the weekend. So there you go. What are we gonna do? Um, Blaze says, just the way you said about Havertz needing therapy and reprogramming is true. He needs everybody to be behind him and show him love because he's low in confidence, and he needs to be reprogrammed from a forward to a midfielder. Like, we literally chose probably the most difficult player to occupy a position that was so important to recruit properly for. Um, you probably could have got away with Rice needing some extra games. He slotted in perfectly, really. But you couldn't have gotten away with this position not going right. Covenant says it will be sad not to have him on Sunday. However, I'm happy also that Arteta can see that he needs to manage Saka well. As for Sunday, we shall be slapped with such a performance. That was crap. I just can't see us like, yeah, or maybe do a slapping. I don't know. Um, I was already not feeling good about the Man City game because it's Man City, and I think our biggest issue against them is more about like us having an inferiority complex. I think in order to play well against Man City, you have to be willing to attack them. You have to be willing to take risks. You have to have tons of energy and intensity. And, every time we go into a game against them, it's either an early mistake that gives them a goal and then we fall apart, or we play very timid and we still concede. And, we really struggle to create chances. And so, yeah, hold on really quick. Hold on really quick. I just want to finish this. Yeah. So Blaze says Jess Wahi was good today. We could have buy him in the transfer summer window. Yeah, we could have bought him. What I'll say is, like, I think he's good, but I would prefer to get somebody a little bit more, you know, does he slot into Arsenal and just, like, play like that? I don't know. So, good player, but I thought at this stage, if we're gonna bring in a striker, it kinda needs to be the guy, and I'm not sure Eli Wahi is the guy, if that makes sense. DJ Polar says, Sky Sports reporting that Arteta will not willing to take any risks with Saka, took him off for precaution, pinch of salt, though. I don't care. I don't care. Um, City is not gonna be fun, and this is what we've worked so hard for, is to have these really difficult games midweek, and maybe there is some teething issues in terms of, like, playing against Bournemouth and turning right around and playing against Lens and then going right around and playing Man City, but that is the cost of being a good team. You're not going to get these seasons without having any other competitions and bombing out of cups and, playing one game a week. This is the job. So everybody needs to get up to speed. Because what I saw today was one of the worst performances that we put in a long time. It was really bad. So yeah. Woke up says, maybe we have big squad to find a consistency. Maybe we have a big squad to find a consistency. Anton Dunn says, we need people to actually occupy the midfield against Man City. And again, like, that's the thing is getting the midfield right, because as cliche as it is to say that the game is won and lost in the midfield, and the midfield is the most important thing in the game, it's true. Like, without a good midfield, you can't control games, and we had a very good midfield that was it was definitely, like, top 4 midfield in the league. Like, I would say, like, a better like, if Liverpool are clicking, they're probably up there as well, but in terms of midfields, like, Xhaka, Partey, and Odegaard were pretty balanced. Like, it could get better. Like, I think you could upgrade on Xhaka and upgrade on Partey, but it's hard to do because those they're already kind of, like, right there. There's probably just, like, a 5 more percent that you need to go in order to get them to be able to beat City and, you know, beat better teams, all the time. So, yeah, our midfield was and we still had Zinchenko coming into that midfield. That's what I'm saying. It's like it's not like Zinchenko was not inverting last season. He was, but he was playing in a balanced midfield that was functioning, and so he wasn't being asked to do Xhaka's job and Odegaard's job. He was just kind of doing his job and adding that extra man. He's not really adding an extra man right now. He is being the midfield. That is a problem that we have going into the midfield. So Arteta kind of needs to suck it up and play a strong midfield where everybody occupies positions, knows what they're doing. And, I know he's going to do it, but I just would not play some guys against City. Like, I would play almost like the away team, try to shut them out, be physical at the back, but what kind of mental damage is this game going to affect us? Because, we're already probably spiraling from having to play Manchester City. We're already probably thinking about that. So who knows what mental state we're going to be in, especially if we don't have Saka. So we need we need midfield. Like, that's what we need, period. Boy says Zinchenko needs to stop inverting. It's no longer useful. Anton Dunn says people need to make themselves available to be passed to and not just hold position all game. I agree. These people weren't moving. And so, yeah, like, we've spoken. There's 200 of you guys in here, which is amazing. I'm sure some of you guys just watching for my rants. I hope they were juicy for you today. Make sure you guys like this video and subscribe to the channel on the way out. This has been so long. It's been 2 hours. Maybe I should have went on a walk with Bella instead of watching that game. I will talk to you guys tomorrow. I'm sure the 4 p.m. show is going to be very, very, juicy tomorrow. We're probably going to have more conversations about how we're going to survive against City with no midfield, even if they don't have Rodri. So again, make sure you guys like this video, subscribe to the channel, get in the comments after and let me know what you guys are thinking. I am going to create a couple of clips and all that kind of stuff. So you guys will see clips come out. But yeah, and I'm working on guests for the next couple of shows. So I will give you guys some updates on that later. And there will be no rewatch for this one because I cannot bear to watch this shit again, okay? But maybe we'll do something against Man City and we can rewatch that. I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Bye, guys. Love y'all. I love y'all.